I've always seen somebody on my blanks, okay? How, I can barely keep up with bills and all the bills that go back and forth, and the claims and the phone calls, okay? If you have individuals that go out, and now you're saying that they can go out and get their insurance companies, individuals, that is going to add to the number of all these insurance plans that now I'm going to have to follow. You're going to come to me with your individual. You're going to come to me with your individual. You're going to come to me with your individual. How am I going to sort through all that?
Well, first of all, nurses shouldn't be the ones that have to deal with the insurance companies at all. And my mother was a nurse, and so I have a deeply held affection for the whole nursing industry. But I will say this to you, yes, 1,300 insurance companies are lot. You can buy probably 1,300 kinds of ice cream in this country too. And yes, it is hard sometimes to manage. But let me tell you, in a free market competitive environment, it works a lot better than it would if you put it in government control. Because right now, if someone can choose their insurance company, if the insurance company doesn't do the right thing, they can fire them. But under a government control situation, if that bureaucrat is telling you what to do, if you don't like them, that's tough. That's the only stop in town.
Congressman?
Yeah, we're going to have to,
we have to
keep our word on. But I want you to know, I respect what you're saying. I just know that all right, but thank you, and I'll tell you this much. If there are 1,300 companies out there, someone will come up with a way to make it simpler and easier, and it will put Cigna out of business.
You know, a lot of people are leaving, and I understand we must be considerate of all the people that have been waiting to speak. I know there are a couple people that we had promised that could make statements, so please, if you have a question, except for the people that we have talked to that have a statement to make for a particular purpose, if you have a question, please ask your question, and then let's move on. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm a senior at O'Connor High School, and here's my question. Is Arizona considered a sovereign state? If so, do we have the right to nullify the healthcare reform after it is or if it is passed?
That's a good question. The 10th Amendment of the Constitution says those rights not specifically granted to the federal government under this Constitution are reserved to the states or to the people respectively. And I believe in that, and I absolutely believe that if this goes through, that the states ought to do everything they could to exert their independence in that regard. We passed some legislation along those lines. But the fact is, if this passes, the federal government will have enormous power and ability to force this on the states. So I agree with your premise, but unfortunately it won't save us. Okay. Yes, someone over here.
I'm from Surprise. I just want to ask you if you're willing to connect to 3 principles for healthcare reform. I'm a small business person, I'm a Christian, and I'm coming from that point of view. That would ensure coverage to everybody, because 16,000 people a year should not have to die for lack of health insurance every year. That goes against Matthew 25, it says that we care for the sick, and if we fail to do that, we've done the same to Jesus. That's our obligation. But it guarantees my choice of doctor and coverage, and that I won't be rationed by private insurance companies like I am now, prohibited from getting an operation that I need to cure my constant pain because the insurance company won't let me do it. And as a small business person, that it cuts costs because I can no longer go paying a third of my income for health insurance, premiums, co-pays, deductibles.
Well, you asked 3 things there, I think. One would be to mandate that all people are insured. And while I believe that all people should have access to insurance, I don't think that the government can mandate someone to have insurance. Secondly, as far as the rationing goes, if we empower the people enough, you can tell your insurance company to take a flying leap. And that would help a great deal, because otherwise the government, they would be the last word on this. And there are bad bureaucrats in private companies. The difference is, in a private company, you can fire them. In a government situation, you can't fire them. And then the third thing you mentioned was What was the third one?
To cut costs.
Yeah, see, I like the term letting it go, but we have to make sure, and I mean that sincerely, I'm not trying to be arrogant. We have to make sure that we implement policies that have the best chance of cutting costs. We just can't say, we're making a law that all things are cheap, because it just doesn't work. What happens is that the entire service disappears. And so there's not any way I can guarantee all of those things, but I would say to you that I'll work as hard as I can to guarantee access to every person equally in this country. Yes, sir.
My name is Steve Marquis. Thank you, Statesman Frank. Obama should have been vetted, first of all, properly. But I will never support or believe in the policies and governments that this liberal and tyrannical government is portraying, nor stand by them. Their lies about what's in the health care bill makes me sick beyond the fact of their legalized murder of innocent babies, gay and lesbian rights to marry, their increase in spending that will put us in dark ages that we will never be able to pay back. What are you going to do, Congressman, when you go back and the Pelosi and the Reeds and the Obamas actually will try to force you as a congressman to get on board? What are you going to do against this rogue government, against the people itself, to put them in their place and to tell them that they're in contempt of Congress, that they're in contempt against the people? What are you going to do about it when they're muscling you in 5 more days to try to pass this through? And I agree with this young gentleman over here. What can we do with these people right here in front that we can become a sovereign Arizona if they push us too far as Texas?
Well, I just say to you, the point is very, very, very good. As I told the audience earlier, we had an amendment that said that if you vote for this, you have to live under it. But unfortunately, the reality is that not only was that amendment defeated, so now we have a situation where members of Congress have voted for something they haven't read and made sure that they don't have to live under it if something goes wrong. Bad situation. Your point is excellent.
It's not on. I do want to thank you for letting me represent a segment of society that I believe that the media never reports on either. My mother was from Mexico, my father from the Philippines, but they taught us to be an American first, and we are a certain descent. And I love this country, and I just so upset about watching what's happening to it now.
Well, if my wife hasn't taken the kids home, I hope you get to meet her because she's from the Philippines as well. So thank you. Over here.
I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the people that are writing these bills. Who gave them their jobs? Who do they answer to? I'm a little confused.
Well, let me, because I want to answer that question, but let me say something here right quick. The reason that we're going ahead and thank the church here for letting us stay here is I wanted to get everybody have a chance to answer questions. So I know it's a long process here, but I don't want anybody walking away thinking that their voice was refused. Does that make sense? So that's why I apologize for the length of time. And now to answer your question, most of these are what they call paid professional staff. They're hired by the members of the Congress or the particular party in power. And they're told what to write. They're very often very erudite, brilliant people, but they usually have a strong political agenda when they come to Congress, and many times they're hired on that basis. So they're political activists usually, most of the time. Very, very smart ones. And so you really have to pay attention to these things because they're smart on how they write it. And then sometimes they are able to get a bad agenda that's hidden in some fairly reasonably written language. Yes, sir.
Congressman Franks, my name is Joe Ryan, and I thank you very much for this opportunity. 76 years old, been in the Navy, and spent 4 years traveling about on business in Africa, so I've seen the world a bit. When you asked earlier what's the most important factor, to my mind, education is first. But I want to bring up a problem in our own backyard. It has to do with A, education, B, health care, and C, the economy of the United States. Because we have a quota down in Tucson of graduating 90 MDs a year, and right now this state needs about 1,900 a year because of the high turnover situation. We have a tremendous number in my hospital at Del Webb of folks from other countries. Now, nothing wrong with folks from other countries, but when I was in these other countries, they need doctors like you wouldn't believe. And for us not to train doctors, so there's a tremendous demand. And the hospitals go to the State Department, get green cards for foreigners to take jobs between